I was sitting up here watching this Monique thing, with her protesting against Netflix.
Oh, I was gonna ask you about that. So I was gonna actually send you a link, but I didn't know if you had already watched it.
Well, I'm watching the Breakfast Club because
Yeah.
she was on the Breakfast Club a couple of times, and so I'm like, okay, I want to get a clearer understanding of what she's talking about, you know. And that whole thing with Oprah, that didn't surprise me at all. I'd be glad when people really wake up
Right.
when it comes to Oprah, because I've always felt like Oprah was straight up full of shit. Because they had asked her about Monique. What about Monique? Are you willing to discuss, y'all, issues? Well, that's negative energy, and when you have negative energy coming towards you, you can't join in with that negative energy. You have to rise above it. I said, oh, she's one of these positive negative energy bitches.
Right.
And that's nothing but an excuse to avoid an issue for the sake of resolve. That's all that is. This is what I keep trying to tell people. Leave that madness alone. That's just another religious doctrine.
Yeah.
And it's cowardly, No, that's negative energy, blah, 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 blah. See, Oprah, people kiss up to her because of her wealth, you know.
But I'm glad though that and also in regards to Oprah, I'm glad that after they showed pictures of her kissing on Weinstein, you saw that picture, right?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Well, look that up, man. Kissing all up on people starting to come after her. Well, it's about time she get exposed anyway. But we all know she ain't about nothing.
Kissing on who?
Harvey Weinstein. That producer.
Harvey Weinstein. Sounds familiar, but I can't put a face on him yet. Yeah, I really can't put a face on him yet. I'm going to have to look that up if I can remember. But she's definitely one person I'll be glad when she just gets exposed. I don't understand why people kiss up to her so much just because she got all that money. That don't mean nothing.
Right.
Because for her to arrogantly say, well, I'm going to run for president, that just goes to show you how sick this country has become. We got all of these shootings going on all over the place. I put up a video on Facebook today about this little white girl. She was opening up her birthday present, and her parents gave her a shotgun. And this little girl was so emotionally overwhelmed, she was almost in tears. Oh, thank you.
That was a video that I saw people talking about. I thought that, okay, I saw somebody paying attention to that today. So, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. I had posted that, and I said, you see, this is the reason why you can't go to the theater. This is the reason why you can't go to your churches. It's stuff like this. This is the reason why. You can barely do any damn thing. Pretty soon, you're not even going to be able to go to the goddamn grocery store. You ain't going to be able to pay your bills, It's because of these crazy-ass white people.
It's funny that white folks started to call their own out. This thing coming to a gradual end. White folks called each other out saying how wicked their own people is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about strangers too, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we already know it. It does feel good to see their own admit that their own people are just the devil, so to speak.
Well, I put up a video about that too yesterday. About this white dude up there. He was he's a poet. And
Daniel Stevens?
No, Justice somebody, Justice Blackburn, something like that. And he was up there talking about his people, and he was saying that if anybody has to make the race issue go away, it's their responsibility to make it go away. And see, and he is that generation of white people who are sick and tired of what his ancestors created. And there's only a handful of them out there.
Yup.
You know, it's just that hopefully it will be more of him out there to make an impact, because what he also knows that if a revolt ever breaks out in this country, nobody's going to care about if he agreed with his ancestors or not. I'm not going to care. We'll just say it wasn't enough for you, your head goes too.
Yup.
You know, but you know, on that same video, I was letting them know this is we all are caught in this wicked circle. You know, this wicked dilemma of racism. They hurt us, and because we are hurt, then we become just as racist as them, and we strike back, you know, out of retaliation, and we think that is right because we're retaliating, and it is right, but we're still caught in that circle.
Yeah, it's timeless.
You know, everybody's still going back and forth. One person is wicked, the other one is retaliating, and so here you go with this yin and yang. Both sides wrestling with one another, and nobody is willing to be that third person who stands on the outside and say, we need to stop this. We really need to stop this, regardless. You know, that's why I'll be glad when more of our people become more intellectual and less emotional, because when you are more emotional, it's your emotions that get you caught within that storm of going back and forth, because you're angry and you're hurt, and you know, and they keep injecting you with Black history every single year. February ain't nothing but a fix to keep you hating.
Yep.
That's all it is. It ain't nothing but a fix. And if people would just look at it for what it is, if you're looking at a history to where your people have failed, that's really not Black history. That's European history. Because regardless of who stood up, Dr. King gave his little speech and Malcolm stood up by any means necessary, they were still killed. Now, how can you celebrate Black history when all your efforts failed? It sounds like to me that's not your history. The people who were successful, that's their story. It's not your story. It's not your story unless you're the hero, unless you are the survivor.
It's funny you think like that, because that's how I feel too, that, you know, even though we love Malcolm and all them, they really didn't win, and when you think about it.
No, they didn't. You know, and Malcolm gave up and allowed himself to be killed. And a lot of people don't like to talk about that. He gave up. He got exhausted, but what pissed me off about Malcolm is that Malcolm had a lot of options. He had people overseas, over there in Saudi Arabia, that told him, why don't you just get your family, just come over here and just get away from all of that.
Yeah.
But his pride wouldn't allow him. You know, but a lot of people say it was his love too. Yeah, it was his love, but don't flatter yourself. You know, because even though it was his love, he didn't love you enough not to sacrifice his own life right in front of his own children. Let's just be real.
Yeah.
Malcolm gave up, and Malcolm wanted to die, and he set up an atmosphere for his destruction. So, and if you really just want to look right at it, Malcolm committed suicide.
Yeah. But boy, you say that, boy, Negroes will have a heart attack.
Let them have a heart attack. The people who won't have a heart attack are the ones that's going to be liberated. See it for what it is. Oh, you out of line now? Well, whatever. I really don't care how you think or how you feel. I'm more concerned about the people who are willing to look at the reality of what happened Malcolm gave up. And when he said it's time for martyrs, that came right of his own mouth. It came outside of his own mouth. He said it's time for martyrs. He's telling you, I set up an atmosphere that's going to put me in a position to die, pretty much. I'm going to sacrifice myself. And so whatever title you give to it, whether it's suicide or sacrifice, you did this in the presence of your family. And when you did that, you not only hurt your wife and your daughters, but ever since his death, due to the fact that that brilliant man self-destructed, you see his family has been suffering ever since.
Yeah.
Let's just be real. You know, that his sacrifice did not help his daughters. It did not help his grandson. It did not help his wife. It didn't help nobody in his family. And it didn't help Farrakhan. Now people may say, what do you mean that it didn't help Farrakhan? Because had Malcolm not did that, there is a very good chance that him and Farrakhan would have reconciled their differences.
Yeah.
Now people may say, oh man, you tripping. No, because I've been listening to Farrakhan for a whole long time. And regardless of him being upset at Malcolm talking against his teacher whom he loved, let's just be real, whom he loved, it's only natural that you become upset when somebody speaks against somebody who you love. That's just like I tell people, don't you say anything against my sons. Anything. I don't care what it is. You know, you speak against my sons, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Flat out. I don't care what it is. If you don't like them, keep that shit to yourself. You know, I will kill my mama over my sons. But had he not did that, there was a very good chance, due to the fact that Farrakhan still had love for Malcolm, they would have eventually reconciled their differences, even if they would have not decided to work together from then on. You know, it's just that when you make a sacrifice, an unwarranted sacrifice, like Malcolm did, other people suffer.
Yeah.
And from that point on, his daughters and his grandchildren are suffering, even right now. So you know.
Do you remember when his grandson died? Well, I remember you like, what year was that? 2013 when he died?
Yeah, out in Mexico.
Yeah, like what did you think about that?
Nothing.
I remember we talked about it, but it's been so long.
Nothing. I didn't think anything about it.
Oh, okay.
Nothing at all. Because number one, he shouldn't have had his ass out there.
Yeah.
You know, the whole thing is, what was he doing in Mexico up in a club?
Right.
You know, sometimes you gotta see things for as they are, and if you out being an idiot, I ain't gonna get emotional behind your shit.
Yeah.
Because as far as I'm concerned, the federal government tried, you know, the federal press, you might as well say, tried to use that as a device to turn the blacks and the Mexicans further against each other. But it didn't work. You know, he shouldn't have had his ass out there in the first place. You know, because if you talking about being a leader and all of that, it's just certain areas you ain't supposed to be in.
I agree.
You know, and I was telling a whole lot of people, I don't know why y'all tripping. You know, that's just because that's Malcolm's grandson don't necessarily mean that he's a leader. You know, you guys are still in love with Malcolm. You know, it's like when you see him, you see Malcolm because he's the closest thing to Malcolm, because that's his part of his genetic bloodline. That's
Yeah,
just
I remember. Then you used to talk to that girl who got pregnant by him. I remember you used to tell me that you found the only reason why she got pregnant by him because she wanted to be a part of the bloodline.
no. That was well. That's probably true with that whole thing with her. Who knows? Because every time you turn around, she's on Facebook bragging, "My daughter is the great grandson or the granddaughter of Malcolm X." Okay, fine. But if that's the way you see your own daughter, then it means you don't know your daughter, because that's your daughter. That's not the granddaughter of Malcolm X. I mean, when you look at your daughter, who do you see? I know that what's that singer, the one who married Bob Marley's son?
Oh, not Eric, but you talking about Lauren.
Yeah, Lauryn Hill. Now I know for a fact that she got with him simply because he was of the Marley family, and then she turned around and started getting her ass kicked because she forgot that's a Jamaican dude that you're dealing with. So it's like they get fascinated by the legend and they lay up with the offspring of the legends, and in the same sense, in their own mind, they still laying up with the legend. It's sick as it may sound. She'd say, "Well, I want to have a grandbaby by Bob Marley's. I want to have a baby by Bob Marley's son." So in other words, you want to have a baby by Bob Marley because you want to be in that Bob Marley bloodline. That's a sick way of thinking. You bringing a child into the world for that purpose. So when you look at the child, do you see your child for who they are, or do you see that child for she's an offspring of Bob Marley? And when you go into things like that, most of the times it don't work out. And that dude was bouncing her ass off the walls. Every time you turn around, Lauryn Hill was getting beat up by this dude. That's when you enter into a relationship with ulterior motives and insidious motives. Most of the times it just doesn't work out. And even if you don't end up being abused physically, there's a very good chance that it won't work out emotionally because you went into it with false pretenses. Most of the time, things like that don't transpire the way that you desire.
That's true. Like far as meeting your heroes, like I've heard it quoted many times that they say you shouldn't desire to meet your heroes, but once you do, you'll be disappointed. What does that mean?
They're talking about the image.
Oh, okay.
In comparison to that, I think I told you this a lot of times. When Mike had invited me to this other house that he had out here, right next to my job, and see, tell you the truth, when I told you how we met in his barbershop.
Yeah.
And he gave me his number, told me to call him. I admired Mike Tyson so much that I didn't call him. And then when he, I'm just gonna walk you through it again. And then when I was working at this place called Sunset Park, and all of a sudden we get a phone call from Mike, and this is after he had Mike. Sunset Park is a huge park, and it's right over here by the airport, and it has a miniature lake in the middle of it that's built by the city out here, so that people can go there and fish and stuff like that. They got catfish and stuff in there for you, and it's a big, beautiful park. It extends about the first part of Sunset Park extends about 2 blocks, and then there's some fields that they haven't built on yet, and then you go further down, and there's some a couple of baseball parks. But Sunset Park extends about 2 to 2.5 blocks, and Mike's house is just a couple of streets down from the park if you're coming from the airport. I'll take you around once you come out here.
Right.
But simply because he lived right next to Sunset Park, he used to jog at Sunset Park at night. But he found it hard to jog around Sunset Park because there's no jogging track around there. So he paid Sunset Park to put one up there for him. And even though everybody's able to use it, and so in that way, he gained a good relationship with the park and stuff like that. So what happened was, I believe it was 4 weeks after he gave me his number, close to 4 weeks, we get a phone call from Mike Tyson to my supervisor Ron, and he says, Ron, is there any way that you guys can start picking up my trash for me? And Ron said, yeah, sure. What's the problem? He said that shouldn't be a problem. He said, every time I put my trash, see, because he had to set his trash outside of his gate so that the Silver State can come pick it up. He said every time he set his trash out, people who know that that's his house, they would go through his trash and try to find things, and he didn't want anybody finding anything, valuable like his social security number and stuff like that. So he asked us, could we come and pick up his trash from now on? And Ron said, yeah. He said, well, I have some trash right now I need to be picked up. He said, yeah, okay. He said, I'll send my guys to go pick it up now. I happen to be one of the guys, and Ron, simply because Ron talked to him on the phone, Ron came along with him. With us. It was me, it was Ron, and this other Swedish guy named Eric. So we drive over there. As soon as Mike see me, he said, hey man, what's up? I thought you was gonna call me. He said, how come you didn't call me? And I told him, I said, I didn't think, I was like, I didn't know what to say. I said, I didn't think you were serious. He said, dude, I gave you my number. Call me, man. And Ron and them said, y'all know each other? And he said, yeah, he was at my barbershop, and I gave him my number. He didn't even call me. And so we picked up his trash and stuff, and then we stood there and we all talked for about 20 minutes. And as we was leaving, he said, hey, Dave, call me, man. We need to talk. And so ever since then, we was cool.
Right. That's beautiful.
But I bring all that up to say the first time that I went there, I was a fan. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I was still in awe. And I was sitting, talking to him, and he noticed I was fidgeting a little bit, because in my mind I'm seeing these fights, And he said, what's going on, man? I'm like, man, I just can't believe I'm sitting in your house talking to the heavyweight. I'm talking to Mike Tyson, And he said, you know what? He said, I ain't no different than you, man. He said, come down from that. He said, I'm not God or anything like that. He said, I'm just as a regular human being as you are. He said, don't look up to nobody, man. He says, nobody is worthy to be looked up to. And once you spend, I would call quality time with somebody, and that quality time means looking at them and respecting them as a regular human being. That's the quality time, because you see the real quality of the person. And this is what I was saying when I said, I've been around famous people, so now I'm able to be around famous people, and it don't even faze me. Because there's always somebody famous coming through the wind, always. Justin Bieber, he spends a lot of time at the wind. I see Justin all the time. Him and his friends is in that club in there called SX all the time. Justin Bieber knows me. Hey, Dave, I call him J-Dog. I said,
that's cool that you know him.
Yeah. Well, I know him at the job. I don't know him. he recognized me when he sees me, of course, because he's in there all the time, you know. But Justin Bieber is not somebody I would be interested in knowing personally, you know. It's just I'm not interested in that, you know. Now if it ever goes in that direction, according to the Creator's will, I'm not going to reject it, you know. But I'm not going to put forth a will to create any type of relationship with him, because I'm really not interested in what he does. You know,
Yeah.
I know who he is and I know his music, but I don't listen to his music. You know, if somebody was to say, hey man, Justin Bieber is sitting, you know, he's standing over there, you know, like they did the first time he was said to had been in there. This is when we was working outside at the pool. Hey man, don't you see Justin Bieber over there? You know, yeah, he's over there at the bar. I'm like, okay, so, you know. Now if it would have been somebody like say Denzel, I'd have went over there and checked it out, you know. And still, you can't be going up to celebrities. You know, they have to make eye contact with you. A couple of instances when I was working at the Rio, I think I told you about this. Jim Carrey was up there. This is when Prince was performing out here at the Rio in that 3121 club. And when I was working graveyard, I was assigned to this place, this restaurant called the Sports Kitchen. It was sitting right next to the sports book, so they called it the Sports Kitchen, because that's where everybody could go and get them some food and stuff. Now, on your way to the Sports Kitchen, you had to walk through the pits, you know, like the 21 and the roulettes and the crap tables. And so I'm walking through the pits, and I'm seeing this real tall dude, because Jim Carrey is tall, man.
Yeah, I know. Tall and lanky.
Yeah, and I'm like, and he had these people around him, and I'm looking at him. That looked like Jim Carrey. And then he looked at me, and he gave me this look like hi, you know, without saying it. And he was saying with his eyes, it's okay to approach me. And so when I went up to him, he put his hand out, and so I put my hand out. I said, "How you doing?" You know. He said, "How you doing tonight? How you doing? It's good to see you." Strong. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Big, strong dude. I mean, I'm talking handshake. You know, and he's a real happy dude. You know, because Jim Carrey looked like he's about 6'3.5" to 6'4". You know, he's very tall. You know, and so when I met him, you know, I was happy to meet Jim Carrey, but it wasn't an awe. It was like, hey man, how you doing? You know. And let me see, Celine Dion. I met her as she was coming into Rio while I was going to the same spot, the Sports Kitchen. Real skinny, bony looking woman. And this was after she had retired from singing from Caesar's Palace. And I was walking towards the Sports Kitchen as she was coming in with her people. Looked like it could have been her dad or somebody like that. And as I recognized her, but you know, I didn't want to, you know, bother her. She looked at me. She said, "How are you tonight? How are you?" You know, I said, "Hey, you're Celine Dion, right?" She said, "Yes, I am." You know, I put my hand out. She grabbed my hand. You know, she was a nice woman, but
Oh yeah, Celine is real cool, man. Real beautiful voice too.
yeah, and so I'm testing. I'm reading myself according to what Mike pretty much taught me, and there was no awe there. There was a high level of respect, but yet and still that high level of respect is no distinction of my respect for other people. And so when you read that in yourself, it makes you even more humbler for the next celebrity that you'll meet, and then you come to realize that the whole awe is nothing but an effect of the propaganda machine.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And you know, these are people who are just in the position where they don't have to punch anybody's clock. It is just that simple. Yep, that's all it is.
When's the last time you seen Carrot Top?
Oh, it's been a long time, since, because the only way that I was able to talk to him, I was in his room cleaning it when I was at the Luxor. But after me and him had that discussion, that was pretty much it.
Oh, okay.
He sent my manager a nice email. She's not even there no more, from what I was told. And when she the night after that, I went to work, and we had our what is called a pre-shift. She called me into her office. She said, "I need to talk to you." And so I went in and I sat down, and she said, "I'm going to read something to you." And she sat there and she read that email that Carrot Top sent to her about, how nice and respectable, and it was so nice to talk to me and stuff like that. And she said, signed Carrot Top. She said, "Can you believe that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can believe it. I was there." We started laughing. And so the whole test was, when she asked me this, "Do you want a copy of this email?" And I said, "No." She said, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, no." She said, "Wow, you're and most people would want an email." I said, "Yeah, that's exactly the reason why I don't need it." I said, "Just the experience was enough for me." I said, "I don't need it. I don't need that."
Right.
And when I walked out the office, she was looking at me like, "Man, he's kind of strange." No, it's just that I'm dealing with myself. And it goes back to what Mike told me in so many words. He was telling me when he says it's not good to look up to anybody. He was just pretty much telling me to stay humble and continue to love yourself in such a way to where when you see people who are in front of you that are created by that propaganda machine, you don't see them as more than you see yourself. And if it's one person that taught me how to listen inside and beyond people's words, it was my granddad. Because every single time he would tell me something, he would say, "Think about those words." Every time he was saying, he would say something, he would say, "Think about those words." Blah, 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 blah. Think about those words. He would always tell me, think about those words. So basically, he was telling me to think into those words.
Right.
And so as you go forward, when you have experiences like that, and when you have these people who stand in front of you who are already out there, when you go out there, you're at a state of a quality of humility, to where you can actually be in the midst of these people and don't feel bad or intimidated about yourself, because these people have been in this particular area of living longer than you have. So it's all about humility and humanity. That's really what it's all about. It's all about learning how to appreciate and love yourself. And understand that you're the whole thing of the Iron Mike Tyson, and when you take that in, you take in the God principle of the propaganda, and you look up to that person as a god, and Mike had even said himself, he said, "When I'm in that ring, I'm a god." And see, and I understand that, as a boxer, because if you don't feel like that, you can get hurt. Because when I stepped in the ring, I felt like I was a killer. I went in there with my mind on kill. And the only thing that I didn't like about it is that that whole mentality and feeling wasn't based on any fear. I didn't have no fear. And that's what my trainer, Pat Barry, was concerned about. He said, your problem is you don't have any fear when you get in that ring. And he said that makes you an animal. You know, you fight like an animal. He said you're trained, you're focused and all of that. He said, but when I look in your eyes, there's no fear. You know, it's almost like you are a vulture or a stalker or something. And all of that derives from my past of being verbally abused by my dad. And so once I came to understand that, that's one of the reasons why I got out of boxing, because not one of them brothers in there did or said anything to hurt me, and I'm in there taking out all of that on them, regardless of what the sport consists of, and regardless of how much money that I would have earned, because I didn't really want a whole lot of money. All I wanted was $5 million. That's it, and then I was gonna quit. And at that time, it was a light heavyweight champion under the name Virgil Hill. Virgil Hill still lives out here. He had the title at the time. And even though I had just started, my trainer, Pat Barry, said, you can go in that ring and destroy Virgil Hill right now. You know, he said the only thing that's keeping you out is the barriers that you have to go through in boxing. So many people you have to beat in order to get closer to the champion. And he said it's just that you don't have enough experience to get into the ring with Virgil Hill, even though you can destroy him. You know, I just didn't like the way it made me feel. You know, because a lot of people would think that, well, you know, I would think that boxing would help you vent all of that stuff. And it all depends on the person. Boxing can be a counseling thing for you, or it can add to the pain and the destruction. To me, it didn't do anything but add to it, so I had to get out of it. You know, it was physically healthy, but internally it was unhealthy for me.
That's insight for you right there.
You know, so people like Oprah and them, you know, they feed off of people's admiration. And what's a trip about it is that Oprah knows that all of that attention and that admiration and stuff is only because she's got money. She knows this. And if she don't know it, and if she's forgotten this, she's really lost.